In this segment, we'll take a look at how to operate the Gaggia Classic Pro. Now, in particular, I'll be going into detail on what those LED lights mean, how the rocker switches can be used to operate different functions, the steam valve, which can also be used for dispensing hot water, and a closer look at the portafilter and the included baskets. So we'll take a look at all of these things, and then we can get brewing. To operate the Classic Pro, there is a suite of rocker switches and LEDs. Now, these switches each correspond to different functions, and then the LED light more or less lets you know what's going on. So our first switch on the left here, that's the power switch. So basically, when it's flipped to the on position, the machine will start sending power to the boiler's heating element, and it will allow you to activate the pump. Now, if we switch that on, you can see that the power light has illuminated. The next switch is the brew switch. So this activates the pump and is primarily used for brewing espresso. The LED beneath that, that's the brew ready light. That's tethered to the brew thermostat. So when the machine is in its default espresso brewing mode, what will happen is the machine will heat the boiler to espresso temperature. Once that temperature has been reached, the brew ready light will illuminate, letting you know that the water is ready to brew with. So let's go ahead and just say that we want it to brew. You'll simply flip the switch and water will be dispensed through the group into your portafilter to brew espresso. Now, you can also, however, brew hot water directly out of the steam wand. So to do that, if we push the brew switch in conjunction with our steam switch together, it will close the valve in the group, meaning that water will only be able to flow through this wand. Now, the thing that you want to keep in mind is that you will have switched the machine into steaming mode, meaning that the boiler will now be heating to steam temperature. So if you are going to dispense water this way, dispense your water and then switch the machine out of steam mode. And that was a bit of a teaser actually for our final switch, which is in fact the steam switch. So when this switch is flipped, you can see that our brew ready light has now turned off. The light beneath this switch is the steam ready light, which is checking the temperature in the boiler to see if it is ready to steam. Once we've reached our steaming temperature, this light will illuminate, and if we open the valve, steam will be dispensed by the machine. We'll go ahead and switch that off though. Let's take a look at how we would dispense hot water from the Classic Pro. We'll simply go ahead and press both of these switches together and open our valve. And I did get a bit of steam out of there as the boiler was heating up, but you can see we're getting hot water as well. This is a great way to get hot water for things like tea, cocoa, or if you want, you could make something like an Americano, which is a full cup of coffee style drink that's made using espresso and hot water. This last little piece here that I showed you, this knob here, that opens and closes the steam valve, which is used to let steam out of the machine for frothing milk, or as you saw, hot water. In terms of operation, the only other component that we really need to look at is the portafilter. This is where you actually load your coffee using the included baskets to prepare your shot for extraction. And we'll be taking a closer look at that in just a sec. But otherwise, it couldn't be easier to operate the Classic Pro. With the rocker switches and LEDs covered, let's take a look at the portafilter. So this is one of the features that really distinguishes the Classic Pro from other models of similar make or price point. One of the things that's really worth noting is that this is a true commercial style portafilter, meaning that you can pull shots using the same process that would be used in a cafe. Now, this metal, this is chrome plated brass. Brass has great thermal stability and heat retention, making it so that you don't lose temperature when you're actually going from your boiler to your group to brew. Now, the chrome plating, that protects the brass and provides a good aesthetic. And so because this is a commercial style portafilter, that means that we can put a number of different kinds of portafilter baskets in there. So the Classic Pro comes with 3. The first 2 are what are called commercial portafilter baskets. That means that they accept ground coffee and you would need to tamp them and then brew your espresso. So the key factor here is that these baskets are going to be a little bit less forgiving than the other basket, which is pressurized, meaning you're going to need a reliable grinder and perfect your tamping technique in order to get the best shots with these baskets. So We'll trade hands for a second there, but this one, the single basket, is a traditional Italian single, so it would be a range of, let's say, 7 to a max of 9 grams of coffee that you can brew in here. Now with our double, this is a Italian double, so the range on this would be about 14 to 16 grams of ground coffee, and that will depend on your tastes as well as the quality of your grind. Now, our last basket is what's called a pressurized basket, right? So you can see, oh, it looks like we've got a lot of holes, but actually there's only a single perforation in this basket. And so what that does is, if you have a, say, lower quality grind or grinder, or you're using pre-ground coffee and you can't adjust the grind over time, what's going to happen is you'll need something to kind of put some training wheels back on this process to get things going. And that's what this basket does, is it slows down the extraction. So if you're ever going to use pre-ground coffee, if you can't afford a grinder to start, I recommend using this basket before using your commercial ones. And so when you are using that, there's actually a little piece here. It's called the two-way pin. I would make sure that you don't lose this thing, because it can happen fairly easily, but in the middle of our portafilter, right above the spouts, there's a little hole, and you simply insert the pin in that hole if you are going to use the pressurized basket. Now, the scoop, this is a measured scoop. One level scoop is 7 grams, so you can do 1 scoop for your single basket, 2 scoops for either of these 2 baskets. And we'll cover brewing with pre-ground coffee, freshly ground coffee, as well as an attempt at brewing with an ESE pod using that single basket, so stay tuned for that.